All right, so I just came in from a run, and for the last week or two, I haven't been practicing music at all. So as I was out on my run, I got the motivation to come in and give myself a pep talk, and that's what this video is. I'm recording my pep talk to self, and I prepared some notes so I can have a designed pep talk. What did I say first here? This is going to be why I want to get back to practicing regularly and why I will. Notice I didn't say why I should, because I don't believe I should. I would like to, and I will, which is a little different. First off, let's have some context. This is my confession time. So here's my music calendar, and I can't see it because it's in mirror mode. So I have to look like this, and I'll probably flip the image if I end up putting this video up. So this is my month. I wish I had last month, because in last month I feel a little more proud of, but every time I finish a month I, go like this, and erase it. So here's how my thing works. I like my method, if only I would do it a little more consistently. So I have 4 main things that I do every day. So first thing I do is sometime early part of the day, I'll do 15 minutes of some piano related, and I have a number of different things I'll do depending which day. But then I put a little P on there I got my 15 minutes of piano in. And then once I do something else, then I'll erase that and I'll put whatever appropriate letter would be. So V for violin, D for drums, or G for guitar. And so my goal every day is to have piano and then either guitar, violin, or drums. And then I'll cycle for the other ones. So piano is kind of assumed. So ideally, that P is just a reminder. So ideally, it's just done by default. But then if you have days like this day, where I did piano and didn't do anything else, then that little P stays up there. But all of these are days that are done correctly. And then these ones in parentheses, these are when I didn't do it on the actual day. So on that Friday, I didn't do violin and guitar. But then later, on another day, when I didn't do violin, so let's say maybe on this day, I did drums and guitar and piano, maybe that's when I did an extra violin one and I put it up there in parentheses. So I let myself do that because, but I don't let myself do it on the same day. So like I couldn't do this one, do 15 minutes of violin and then do an extra 15 because I want to motivate myself to not do practice binges because that's less effective for learning. So this is my method. And then so ideally, on a good day, like this day, all these days, that'd be just 45 minutes. That's not a lot. Like that's within the realm of realistic, what I can do. And last month, I pretty much had the whole month, and I think I had like 1 day a week that was iffy. That was either blank or it was partly done, which I'm okay with 1 day a week being off, which maybe I shouldn't be, because maybe it's easier if you don't let yourself have one off, then maybe it's easier to, be more consistent. But anyway, so this month, so I erased my old one and I put my number up there. So actually I had 2 months that were mostly done. So not perfect, but maybe like 1 day a week, funny, but other than that, perfect. So I had 2 months of that and I put the 2 up there. And then if this was a good month, then I would put a 3 up there and erase this, but unfortunately instead, I'm just gonna do it on camera. Here's the epic moment. The 2 is gone. My streak of goodness is gone and gone into the abyss, never to be seen again. That feels awful. It feels really awful. It's not how life is supposed to work. But anyway, so first week was good. Second week was good. And then I was busier on Friday than I normally am with other stuff, and I was tired, and I came home, and I guess I did, with minimal, which, if you, probably I got up early in the morning, didn't really have time per se, conveniently, to do anything in the morning, so I probably did it in the evening before going to bed. And that's okay once in a while. I actually did the same thing on Friday and Saturday, now that I think of it. It's just that I had some time in here to make up for it, which is not a good habit to get into. So I guess I got into that habit a little too much, and I didn't have the, wherewithal to make up for it along there. But I at least did the minimal. Like the minimal means at least I'm going at the same rate of improvement for my one instrument, my main instrument. Then next week it was the same, next week it was the same. And this is what, and now this is not, so today is Tuesday, but it's not this Tuesday, it's this Tuesday. And let's just say there's only zeros in between, not counting play just for fun, just sit on the piano and just, play for fun. That doesn't count because that's not practice. It's not like it doesn't do anything, but it doesn't bring me toward the goals that this is for. So, that's where I'm at. And until now, I haven't been motivated to rectify the madness. So here's what I'm telling myself to say, you need to get back to this, because I've been spending time, sitting around doing fun things and saying, I don't feel like going back. Like, I got this streak of, zeros on my to-do list, and I've just been thinking, let's not think about that. Let's not go back to the place of failure, and so I sit around and watch YouTube videos on, right now I'm watching YouTube videos on retro computers, and the computers from the 60s and 70s, which is, it's not like that's something I don't want to be doing, because, hey, it's good to have diverse areas of knowledge and interest and stuff like that, but it's not actually moving me toward any goal. So the question I'm asking myself is, okay, do that, but let's do some other things. And maybe part of the reason you don't feel like doing anything that has to do with any goals is not because, this is the time to not do anything worth doing. Maybe it's just because you haven't been doing any of those things in your free time or in your, non-work time. So here's my list of reasons. I got 4 of them. Reason number 1. This is more of a motivation than a reason. So I just wrote able to improvise, and I'm thinking of this morning, and then right before I hit record, I also popped in my head, I kind of feel the same way about last night sitting down on the drum kit. But this morning, after sleeping in, and not sleeping in technically, I technically, I was awake, because I've made that, I'm at least doing that because I want my biological clock to, have some regularity to it. So I'm not letting myself sleep in technically. But anyway, so after, several hours watching YouTube in bed, I got up and went to my piano like I do once in a while. Like I said, playing and practicing are not the same thing. And I ended up just with, and I even remember what it was, because that's how impactful it felt in the moment. Like, this wasn't something I conjured up the will to do or something like that. Nor is this just something that I did twiddling my thumbs and then forgot about. It was so impactful that I actually remember some of the key parts to it. I just remember that it was, because this was the idea I had in my head. I'm like, I want to put these ideas out just to do it. And the idea was A flat major chord with a B flat and a D kind of thing in the right hand, then just go with it. And so that's where it started, and then I just kind of like improvised out with it. So whatever that sounds like would be something like. Doesn't actually sound that great right now. And then I remember doing an E major with either a D or an F. So, not quite on the actual triad. So shortly after that kind of chord sound and improvising a little bit with that, the next chord was something like. So probably came out something more or less in the vein of. And so I played around with that a little bit. I probably put in some, I'm sure I did some Fs, which I didn't feel like fit really well. I remember not liking the sound of the F in that structure. Probably had a G in there somewhere, but those two were the main ones that I kept coming back to. And I remember doing some D diminished in the right hand, which were good for passing, but not for the really rich emotional part that I was really looking for. The other main part, and I guess part of the reason I remember this so well is because once I get something really good, then I kind of repeat it. Like I do it again, and then I, like theme and variation, that kind of thing. So I would do that with the A flat, on the left hand, and then the B flat and D. That kind of thing. And then I would do something like an E flat chord with a D note or an F note. It wasn't like that, because that's more just kind of sitting with the dissonance of the 7 or the 4 or whatever it is, but in whatever kind of melodic feel or vibe I was flowing along with. It's not like I created it, it's more like I'm just flowing along with it. It's coming to me, not the other way around. But it wasn't like that, where you're just kind of sitting with, it's not dissonance, it's just that kind of groove of the 7E kind of sound. This was more like we're correcting ourselves into the tonality, like that, which is much more sad, because it's, it feels more minor. It's not necessarily not minor. It's a major chord. That's a major chord, but it feels very minor for some reason. It's very sad, which is, I suppose, it must have been the feeling I was having at the time. I don't know, but so anyway, those two, and then a whole bunch of, and they just, sometimes certain kinds of musical elements just feel really right. And so what I ended up doing next was a lot of very tight chords, the kind, and I love these when they're right, these basically almost all the notes of the scale kinds of chords. So stuff like, which right now, they're not in any context, so they sound kind of odd, but yeah, and I actually can't get it again. I remember what it felt like, but I can't actually get it into that musical context again. But my point, and part of the reason I think maybe that it's not working right now is because I'm not thinking in terms of, what the tonic is and what the particular chord is, because there's no actual context that I'm playing it in. And usually for those tight chords, you want to make sure the top notes ideally are the 1, 2, and the 3. So for a C minor chord, that's going to sound great. And then we're making it more of a 7 over an E flat. Yes. Oh yes, and now that I'm coming back into this, I also remember near the end I had this riff that I really liked, where it was two tight things: G minor chord in the left hand and a C major in the right hand. And I would just kind of change it up, which, dime a dozen, but that's what you're in the mood for. Being the hands so tight can be kind of tricky, so much so that satisfying just to realize, hey, I'm sharing that. In this particular case, I'm sharing the C between the two hands, which is kind of cool. And then I can move the left hand to a G. Oops, harder when you're talking. And now I'm actually, the left hand is going further right than the right hand. So if you're really feeling the kind of chord changes and the vibe of the music, and then you're also kind of having fun just because you can keep tempo while doing things that are kind of odd, like the hands going over each other and that kind of thing. it's just one of those things that it's not something you do, it's something that happens to you. Well, that is, if you've got an instrument to do it on. So here's my, I'm getting almost like I'm getting off topic. I'm not getting off topic, because that is why I want to practice consistently, because I couldn't do that 5 years ago. I couldn't do that 1 year ago. I could have done similar stuff a year ago, but that particular thing, no, because I'm using stuff that's fresher, newer. So here's what I wrote to myself. Do you want this freedom that you've got to just sit down and just be carried along with it? Almost like the music is not coming out of you, but it's sitting next to you. Do you want that freedom a little bit or a lot? And then I said, would you like to go back 5 years? Would you like to undo everything you learned and all the progress you made in the last 5 years? And if the answer is no, which it is not, I can't imagine going back and, it's almost like getting stuck in a straitjacket and you can't move. That'd be awful. I don't want that. So then, okay, so then why would you do that to your future self? By cutting things off right now. So now I've had basically 2 weeks of, it's not like I've made no progress, because like I said, improvising and playing for fun, it doesn't reach you toward the goals that you're working on, but it's not like it doesn't do anything. And plus, for that first week, I did have one good day, and then 2/3 of a day, 2 days where I did 1/3. So it's not going to do nothing. But if I would take that 2 weeks of nothing and spread that out for 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, which, if you're busy with life, like, that happens pretty quick. And I had years like that, where all I did was just improvise for fun, because I just didn't have time / it's not actually ever accurate to say I don't have time, because the time that I'm putting in now for piano is 15 minutes a day. And you do that consistently, you see progress. So the time excuse, and maybe part of my problem back then, this is years and years back, part of my problem back then was that I did have this goal of doing like an hour or two a day, which is for a hobbyist, for somebody who's learning this stuff for fun, that's not reasonable. It's not necessary and it's not reasonable, and the end result is that it will make you do less. Unless you actually find yourself consistently over a period of many months, consistently doing that daily, or 4 to 5 times a week. If you can actually do that 4 to 5 times a week consistently for, 5 months plus, then go for it. But if not, what I found for myself is that is the lofty goal that actually ends up significantly diminishing what you're going to consistently do. So reason number 1 is just remembering why I want to progress, because I want to have this experience and I want to have it better. And I want to have that, so I feel very free on the piano. Now I want to have that level of freedom in different keys. I want to be able to do that, for example, in F sharp major, keys like that. I want to also be able to take something like that and write it down more easily. I want to be able to read that from sheet music, easily put it into sheet music, which I can't read for beans, but I'm trying to get there. And actually, that's another thing that I've even further back than my lacuna right here, even further back, I kind of cut out my sheet music bit, which probably is not something maybe it's something I should maybe it's something I would like to choose to regret and get back to. So yeah, I feel pretty free on the piano for improvising, but I would like to be able to get better at doing that kind of thing in more keys, being able to do that thing by sheet music, being able to, one thing I've been working on is being able to do a melody. Number 1, do it by ear. Number 2, do it, and then however I get it, whether it's by ear or just by my fingers making it up, be able to transpose it, so you play it in one key, and you play it in another key. That kind of thing, only I want to be better. Yeah, and then I want to do that on my instrument of choice. I am way better at guitar and violin and drums than I used to be. But I want to be able to do that. Of course, the instruments are different, so what you're going to get is going to be different. For example, you're going to be able to have more notes in a typical chord if you're playing chord melody type stuff like what I've been doing. If you're doing that on guitar, you're going to have typically fewer notes per chord. But if you recognize that, then you can end up with a similar sound if that's what you're going for. And obviously on violin, you don't have chords, except for once in a long while a 2-note chord, which, that's not worth a whole lot. It's not what the instrument's made for. And obviously with drums, we're just in a completely different ballpark entirely. So I want to get there. And the question is, do I want to have this experience a little bit, or do I want to have it a lot? And when you don't, you go a week and you're just tired and your emotions are kind of flat, and so you don't have those moments, then it's easy to lose sight. But I had a reminder this morning, and then last night or the night before with drums, just one of those times when you're just feeling it. That's my number one. Number 2 motivation, and these ones are going to go a little quicker. Number 2 is the psychological motivating power of daily structure. Little bits of progress consistently feel good and make you feel better and make a day go better. So this is just like, there's a reason that it was while I was out running that I gained the motivation to come and give myself this pep talk, because finally got out and did something I know will make me feel better and will put a little more structure and a little more well-being into my day, but will require a little effort up front, and the fact of the matter is, even though you don't want to do those kinds of things, the more consistently you live into that free time with structure and with motivation, making progress on things with only yourself to be accountable to, the more you do that, the more you make days feel good. The more you make, you just feel better and do better. And then the non-negotiable parts of your day, such as going to work, also feel better, and going to bed feels better, and etc. Getting up might not feel so good, but that's part of the trade-off. Number 3, there's minimal reason to skip the minimum, so start there. This is my great mistake. I don't feel so terrible for this bit right here, where I had a weekend that was imperfect, and then the next week was better. So once again, I don't have anything to feel really bad for. We have days once in a while where you're exhausted and it happens. The next week, okay, we're still getting even better. But then, what happened right here? So the minimum would mean taking one instrument for 15 minutes, like this right here. And the idea is, if you at least do the minimum, then you're at least making some progress. And then usually, at some point, you can, do another minimal bit right on top of it. So this day, maybe depending what time of day I did that little bit of piano, presumably there's going to be some time in the day where you can say, hey, just do, pick up your violin for 15 minutes. You'll be glad. You will come away having enjoyed it, which is usually almost always what happens, unless it's like, half an hour before I'm going to go to bed and I'm just exhausted. That's the only time when I actually might go through the practice session and feel worse afterwards. But usually I feel better afterwards. And a lot of time I'll go, 15 minutes is what my phone alarm goes off. But a lot of time, like particularly for piano or guitar, I'll go 5-10 minutes more because I want to finish. Like, let's say I'm going through some scales. A lot of the time that's what it is. I'm going through on piano, it might be the harmonic minor scales, and I'm going through the circle of fifths, and I'm like, hey, I'm not done. And so I finish, even though it's not something I require of myself, but I just want to, because it feels good to finish them and I'm enjoying it. Same thing with guitar. When I'm going through scales and arpeggios and minor, I think that's usually what it is, and I just want to finish it. So that's my third reason. Number 4. Oh, and this is one that just as I was out on that run, and I got some music blasting in my ears because that helps me be a little more motivated when I didn't want to go in the first place. So as I'm out running and my mind's going to whatever, and I'm also having musical thoughts, and, because music makes you, it makes me analyze the music and also just enjoy the music. But that made me, so number 4, I said, hey, consider scrapping your current practice list and setting new goals. New goals towards something subjectively motivating, if that's helpful. So that's just something where, hey, I've been kind of feeling a little bit unmotivated by the current things I'm practicing. It's not like they're the same. Like I have been making small changes to them. Usually, what I'll do is I'll take one exercise or something I'm doing, and I'll shift it down to the bottom and then add a new one up top. So I'll kind of shift. I'll keep it moving, so it's not like it's static, like it's not changing. But most of it is going to be the same, and sometimes I will come to it and think, I'm kind of tired of all these, even though I haven't learned them yet, and I'm still having to work on them. And so one of the things I was thinking as I was out running was like, hey, if you are tired of all this stuff, sometimes that's a sign that you could shake things up a little bit, change things up a little bit. And so I was thinking, I could set some new goals, and also my current practice list doesn't have as much tangible goals. It's more related to just building my areas where I know I want to build my skill with the various instruments. I think violin is the one where it's most set in the sense of I know exactly what I want to practice and I'm going to keep doing it for a good while. But as far as piano and guitar, it's especially the problem with guitar for me right now is that I'm not really focused on any one set thing. I'm kind of just, that's a topic for another day. But so these are my 4 bits of motivation. Number 1, just really home in on the experiential aspect and asking myself the question, do I want to have that a little or do I want to have that a lot? Because it feels really good when I use my new skills, like my basic ear training skill, to be able to take a melody that I got in my head, let's say from a song, and I can more or less, I can sit down and play the melody. Finding the chords might take a little longer, unless it's the basic 1, 4, and 5 kind of thing. Or if it's like, I listen to a lot of stuff that's much more difficult, like the stuff I listen to out running. I could probably get the melodies, but getting the chords with the melodies would be a lot harder, and I know because I've tried. That's what this book is. This is my, I have multiple books. This one isn't so full yet, but it's my, when I practice transcription. This is how I start off with writing it down in my own kind of weird little shorthand, and then I'll put it into Muse Score if it's something that I want to do something with, or that I want to have for my collection. But so anyway, I'm just going on now. So right now, I'm down here. My goal is that I'm gonna erase this and start over, and I'm gonna start Wednesday, and I'm gonna not have any holes in this thing starting tomorrow. So if you need some motivation to practice whatever instruments you are into, then hopefully you got a little bit from me motivating myself. I'm gonna play a little handful of chords and say goodbye.